keep your options open because something is changing. That's the only constant is change.
Yeah.
I think that's true. So committing too early on a certain platform or certain technology, it's just too soon.
Let's go! Let's go!
Welcome to the podcast behind MarTech That Matters. My name is Hans, strategy director at I.O. With me, I have my esteemed colleague, Tom. Hello, Tom. Nice to have you behind the mic.
Thanks. Nice to be behind the mic.
Yeah, I think most of you will know you. If I would describe you myself, I love how you can engage with tech, how you love tech, but also how you can explain tech to people who are not that tech savvy. So maybe starting from that, you've been talking today about intent-driven. Intent was the word that you mentioned.
Yeah, exactly.
How would you explain that to a 5-year-old?
That's a good question. If we think about intent-driven personalization,
Yes.
Then the intent means to really capture what the user is looking for and then combine or making sure that your experience is tailored to that intent.
Okay.
That is okay, but that's not for a 5-year-old.
Yeah, but I get it. So
yeah.
maybe I'm a 6-year-old, but
Yeah. Right.
no, but what you're saying is because it was Steven Belgium who was talking about behavior.
Yeah.
And you're talking about behavior.
Yeah.
And then making sure that based on what they're looking for, you're delivering.
Yeah, and why it is such an important word, maybe, and I didn't say that on stage, maybe not explicitly.
That's why we have this.
Yeah, that is that intent-based personalization is with the LLMs and with the and the language models is easier than doing like purely persona-based or profile-based personalization. So a lot of brands have been struggling with, oh, this is Hans. These are his properties, and this is what he maybe is interested in. That we know from previous communication or by the things that he filled in the past, and then we try to personalize. But it's much easier to let Hans click on something, tell us something, and then tailor the interface.
Yeah. Okay. Because Hans could be in a working mode. Hans
Yeah,
could be in a family mode.
Yeah.
So there's different Hanses.
Yeah, it's not that if you master profile-based personalization, and then that is not per se giving the right outcome.
Yeah.
So with intent-based personalization, and of course, if you can combine intent-based personalization with profile-based personalization, that's even better. But it's easier to do something that is relevant for Hans at this point.
Yeah. That's why I love you said design with data.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is actually the definition almost by what you're saying now.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. But if AI starts to curate everything, how can brands be relevant in that area?
That's a good question. So like Steven also said, the brand preference will be more important right now than in the future than it is right now. It is also very important today, but there will be a more filter bubble, let's say. Filter bubble in what you as a user, you might suggest a brand. I want to buy Nike shoes. But there's also a filter bubble that is new with AI. That is, AI is maybe also considering the brands that AI doesn't think, but AI deems relevant for your intent.
Yeah.
So you need to make sure that your brand is considered for the right intent.
Yeah. Because now it looks like step one could be optimizing for algorithms, right? So because the LLMs are becoming more important, let's make sure that we're also there. Because I think you also referred as it will be something extra. It will not change everything.
Yeah.
But how do you go from making sure that the algorithms find us to really linking that with the individual intent, which is something the LLMs don't really care about?
It's about the first thing you need to do as a brand. I think is really knowing which intents you are relevant for. So it's really knowing how the user describes your service, or what the user wants to know when you are providing a solution for that need or for that intent. So that's the first thing. And you can't do that if your brand is never mentioned in an LLM. So you need to capture, and where it stands today, there isn't any form of analytics coming from the Googles and the ChatGPTs. That will change in the future, but it's still a black box. So you don't know what your brand mentions are on these platforms. We have we have insights into Google and in classical keyword-based search, but we don't have that with LLMs or with AI mode yet. So if you want to do something and you want to capture the intent, and it's something like it's a muscle you need to start working on, the only real option you have is by doing it on your platform.
Yeah.
Because there you have relevant users, and if you can capture their intent, then you can scale that with good content to capturing the intent one step higher in the search engines.
Yeah. But I think that is what we're trying to make more tangible. So when you do, like Clarissa mentioned, the audit, where do you stand right now? Then start working from there. How can we start creating our reputation, our brand, so the LLMs can be found? Making sure that, and I love the example from Telenet as well, where they said, well, we start with our frequently asked questions, our chat. Just that was some of the intent. We already knew questions were already there, but they're learning so fast from all the intent questions that they're receiving, and that creates a roadmap on where you can go. So
what was it, a couple of 100,000 inquiries?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a lot.
And so the advice, the nugget you need to take into account there, that is that if you're building a chatbot, you need to do it in the first place for your end users, and you need to build something that is giving the right answers for the users, obviously. But the second part is don't forget the analytics, and don't forget to capture that intent.
Yeah.
Because it's it's easy to say we are building a chatbot and we are supplying it with our FAQ and we're generating answers. But are you really capturing? Are you gathering the data from those questions, whether or not you have an answer?
If you're not using it as a learning instrument to get insights,
it's only half of the work.
It's half of the work. At the same time, you were talking about security because it's about data, protecting your own data. So I think this can help you get more conscious understanding about the content people are looking. You can also work from a branding perspective, trying to say, hey, if this is the questions you're having, our brand might be able to offer the solution. There's a whole world going on.
And I think in terms of security, if you see the and I'm going to call it an experiment. If you're doing experiments with chatbots these days, it's often with the publicly available content. So in terms of really security risks, there's only the risk. The biggest risk is hallucination, and that the chatbot is giving wrong answers. So it's not really a security issue. But when you place internal or customer data, like for example invoices, then the chatbot needs to have an interface to ask what was Hans's last invoice. And if then the invoice of Tom comes up,
you don't want to throw that out there.
That's an issue.
I can imagine.
So having a centralized location with rights and role and access management into place from day one is very important if you want to go beyond the, hey, look, we built an FAQ chatbot.
But I think that's also the conversation we've been having earlier. Like, first, what is your own data? How do you organize it? How can you operationalize it? Then start thinking about, based on the audits, where are you in comparison to your competitors? Then using the insights to learn, to scale, to create a roadmap, making sure that your own data is protected, enriched, which is actually what you also referred to with the bonsai, that you can make sure that you're not using it as silos, but then really using it as...
and that you're also, for your internal organization, creating a sort of interface where you can also learn by doing. And if you're creating, let's say, an FAQ assistant, that it is something that is not entirely created by IT, but also manageable by, let's say, a marketeer. And for that, you need interfaces. You need, let's say, different versions of a chatbot. And we are now on version 1.1, and tomorrow we go to 1.2. And collaborative insights to make these things better, because they will not be in the final state from the first launch.
Yeah. But I think that is the interesting topic that comes back from every speaker. It's like you have to break down the silos within your agency, within your company. You have to make sure that everybody is aligned with the vision where you're going. Then make sure that you break the silos also when you use AI or different tooling or platforms.
Yeah, sure.
And then seeing that as a force to create value, not just efficiency.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also, I think if you look at breaking the silos, we've been trying, and a lot of companies have been trying to do that and doing that also in a successful way for the last 15 years, let's say.
But it's hard.
It's hard, of course, and it will stay hard regardless of AI. But the push to AI might give you a good incentive to break down those silos even more.
Yeah, and speed up the process.
Yeah,
actually.
Yeah.
Okay. What is the one thing, because you're always ahead of the curve, and I love it when you're playing with tech. What is the one thing you'll think we'll be laughing about when we look at the internet today?
That's a good question. That's a really good question. I wasn't prepared for that one, Hans.
Well, maybe let's put it in a different way. Is there one thing that you, if not looking into the future, but if you start, and this is why we're having these conversations, if you're talking with companies today, what is the one thing that you say, well, this is one message I really want to deliver, which is important for you to think about? Is there one thing where you see the companies are struggling with? Is it different questions they're having? Are they overwhelmed?
Yeah, I think in terms of what advice I would give is to not put your eggs in one basket and leave the options open, because you don't know where this whole thing is going, who is going to be the future interface, who is going to claim the authority, will you still need a website? But it's to keep your options open, because something is changing. That's the only constant is change.
Yeah.
And I think that's true. So committing too early on a certain platform or certain technology, it's just too soon.
Yeah.
And I think from and this is maybe something that will sound silly in a couple of years, or maybe it's correct, then please remind me if you're listening in 2030. The fact that we are now looking at ChatGPT as this app or as this platform, I think that will completely change. The way that Google, if we look at Google in the 90s, it was just a search engine. Today, it's a whole range of tools and platforms. And that could be the case.
Yeah.
I don't think it will be the ChatGPT in this form. We will look back at it and say that was a very amusing first try at everything that is AI.
Yeah. Okay. But I think it comes back to what we've been hearing earlier from other speakers, that some companies, they really invest in some platforms, in some tooling, and they buy the Rolls Royce, but then they're stuck, and then they have legacy, and then they have to change that. And Telenet was explaining how they shifted, and that was a whole process. So I think it makes a lot of sense to make sure don't put all your eggs in one basket, just have the flexibility. So that's quite accurate. About the other, let's talk when we are 2030.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll say, well, this is what Tom was talking about. Thank you very much.
Let's hope so. Thank you.